Hi, my name is Alexandra Nordmeyer. I am a grad student at Morningside University. I teach kindergarten through second grade special education at Charles City, Iowa. The title of my study is The Effects of Token Economies on Academic Achievement and Problem Behaviors of Students with Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities in Elementary School. What is the problem? Why did I choose to study this? So 1 in 6 or 17% of children from 3 to 17 years old have one or more developmental disabilities. This impacts quite a few students that we see every day in the educational setting. Unfortunately, students with disabilities are showing low academic achievement and limited progress. According to the nation's report card, from 2011 to 2019, students with disabilities have started to flatline in their scores. They're not increasing, unfortunately. Thankfully, they're not decreasing, but they're really just not growing in their academic achievement. Additionally, students with disabilities are having a higher rate of problem behaviors in the classroom. It is estimated by Newcomb and Hagopian that 50% of children with intellectual disabilities also exhibit some form of problem behaviors as well. Why did I choose to study this? Why did I choose to target academic achievement and problem behaviors with students with disabilities? Well, in my classroom, this directly impacts the students that I work with. My students have intellectual, developmental disabilities, and autism. And along with that, they do exhibit problem behaviors in the classroom. And so I really wanted to find an intervention that could target both academic achievement and positive behaviors within the classroom. Some of the past research that has been done in this area is video modeling. Video modeling has been shown to increase on-task behaviors, participation, and decrease problem behaviors. Unfortunately, there is little research on video modeling being able to directly impact academic achievement. Video modeling is a great way for students to see themselves completing a task, and then this teaches them how to uh, once again do this behavior in the future. Video modeling does have its drawbacks, though. You have to have technology, time to edit, and be able to use it in the moment to reinforce behaviors. Preference assessments have also been done. There are multiple studies that show that reinforcers are able to improve behaviors. Preference assessments are used in order to identify reinforcing items for a student that can increase behaviors. But unfortunately, preference assessments alone are not an intervention. They need to be paired with some way to implement those behaviors or those reinforcers to increase the behaviors. It has been shown, though, that when you put a goal, an academic goal, with a reinforcer, that could increase academic success. But once again, you need to pair it with something else. Positive behavior intervention and supports, or PBIS, have also been used to increase positive behaviors throughout the school setting. So this is a school-wide practice that is used. It's done by reinforcing positive behaviors, anything that you see a student doing well, in order to increase that further in the future. This is used by a lot of schools worldwide, and is great in reducing problem behaviors, but has not been seen to increase academics. The proposed intervention that is being targeted during the study is token economies. They are used by giving students a token for a targeted behavior. For example, if you're wanting a student to raise their hand, every time a student raises their hand, you would give them a token. Once their token board is full, they are able to access a backup reinforcer. A backup reinforcer is a preferred item. Research has shown that when you are given a student a more preferred item as the reinforcer, that there are lower rates of problem behaviors seen. The backup reinforcers can be used for a short amount of time, and then instruction can return, and you can work towards getting more of the tokens. Some academic impacts that token economies have had in the past is that giving a student reinforcement has shown to increase their academic success. One study done by Osman and Abbasi showed that kindergarten students that were given a goal and then a reinforcer for reaching that goal showed more academic success than students that were not given that reinforcer. There was another study done on giving tangible reinforcements to students. It was found by one study that the more tangible reinforcements that were given, the more academic success that students did have. There is some gap in the research right now. There are a lot of studies that are showing that, or just being researched, that show that giving students reinforcement is effective in improving behaviors. There is little research right now on showing that reinforcement can be used to increase academic achievement. And there really isn't a whole lot of research on the two of them together. So there's not much showing that there's one way to provide reinforcement to increase both the academic and on-task behaviors at the same time. The purpose of this study was to determine if token economies could be used to increase reading achievement while also increasing on-task behavior specifically for students with intellectual disabilities, developmental disabilities, and ASD. Some potential impacts that this study can have in regards to education is having one intervention to increase academic success and on-task behaviors at the same time. It is great to use this study to find ways to motivate students academically, but to really find one way that can increase both academics and on-task behaviors would be the key for this study. The hypothesis being studied is that implementing a token economy will increase students' academic achievement while also increasing the frequency of on-task behaviors. This study consisted of 6 total students, 5 males and 1 female. 5 students were also Caucasian and 1 was African American. All of these students are in a level 3 special education classroom. They all have an intellectual disability diagnosis. 2 of the students have been diagnosed with autism. All of them have speech goals and academic goals. Academic goals are all in reading, writing, and math. And then 3 of the 6 students have behavior goals as well. These students were chosen due to the fact that they are in my classroom, and I was given permission from both parents and the principal to complete this study. The main materials that were used was a paired stimulus preference assessment, a token economy board, and backup reinforcers. An example of the token economy board is here. It was a visual that was referred to throughout the lesson. Stars were given as the tokens, and then they had a little visual for what they were working for. So with this study, it is a single subject A/B research design. I chose this design due to my small sample of students. I needed to see how all of my students did with the token economy intervention. So I needed to have their baseline data and see how they did during the treatment phase to compare. Preference assessments were done for each student during the baseline phase. The preference assessment was completed 5 times with each student in order to identify preferred items. So students were given 2 options such as Baby Shark or iPad, and they chose which one they wanted. This was effective in identifying the top 2 preferred items, and those were referred to throughout the treatment phase. Students were given 20 minutes of reading instruction daily, and it either focused on letter identification or letter sounds. And then lastly, token economy boards were utilized. 10 stars had to be earned in order for the student to access their backup reinforcer. Students earned stars by following directions, completing tasks, and also answering questions correctly. They were able to access the backup reinforcer for 5 minutes once it was earned, and then the token board was cleared and students returned to instruction. So they were able to earn the backup reinforcer multiple times throughout the study or throughout the instructional period. Assessments that were used included letter identification and letter sound assessments. These assessments were based on their IEP goals. While assessing students, they were shown a row of 5 letters at a time. Students were asked either to identify the letter, so I might say point to the letter D, or if it was the letter sound study assessment, I would ask point to the letter that says D. The reason students were asked to point is because some of the students are nonverbal or their speech greatly impacts their ability to communicate what they know. So by pointing, their ability to communicate didn't get in the way of that. There was a pretest given the first day of the baseline phase, a midterm at the end of the 3-week baseline phase, and then a post-test at the end of the treatment phase. Every assessment was given in the exact same way under the same conditions. Along with that, during the study, behavior observations were collected every day. Problem behaviors were documented, such as aggression, noncompliance, refusal, and redirections. And then on-task behaviors were also documented, such as following directions, task completion, and answering questions. The results of the study. So the results showed that all students increased in letter knowledge during both the baseline and the treatment phase. The biggest thing to focus on here is that students increased the most on their letter knowledge during the treatment phase. During the baseline phase, students increased by 6 points in the letters that they were able to identify, and during the treatment phase, increased by 10 points. So there was the greatest amount of growth shown while they were being reinforced with the token economies. Along with that, you can see from Table 1 how mean scores increased. There was a statistical significance of a p-value of 0.005, so this study is highly reliable in that sense. If you would like to see specifically how students did, you can look at the graph here. I want you to make note of student 6. His scores were outliers, so those did impact the mean scores a little bit, but overall, the student showed the most increase during the treatment phase. On-task behaviors, those also increased for students during the treatment phase. The t-test shows a 0.008 p-value, so still statistically significant in that aspect. Mean and scores increased by 16.16 points from the baseline to the treatment phase. So students were on task for more of the instruction while they were given the token economy boards to reinforce. How does this connect to the past? So we were really looking at the theoretical framework of B.F. Skinner's operant conditioning theory. This shows, his theory shows that providing a positive reinforcement to an individual can increase a behavior. Token economies directly tie into this as students are reinforced for their behaviors. And the results from the study correlated. We saw that students were more on task throughout the lesson when they were being reinforced with the token economy. This study also provides more support to the limited research that token economies and reinforcement can increase academic success. Some implications of this study. Token economies are beneficial in increasing academic achievement and on-task behaviors. Token economies can now be used to motivate students to complete their work and engage in their instructional routines. It is also a meaningful intervention that could be used for struggling students either academically, behaviorally, or both. And this could be used by parents at home to increase a desired behavior that they want to see. Finally, a little side note on that is that preference assessments could also be used to identify meaningful reinforcers. It was shown that giving that backup reinforcer really helped motivate students, and so having a preference assessment to inform future educators on ways to reinforce is beneficial. Some limitations to this study is that there were only 6 students. It was very small. All students were kindergarten aged 5 through 7. All students were in special education. So those were some limitations, a smaller group. And then there was one student absence. He missed 12 days of the 30-day study, so his data were the outliers that kind of affected the mean and median scores. Recommendations for future use. I would do this with a larger sample size, more students with a variety of ages. Don't just focus on special ed students, but really focus on all general education students, and use that during whole group and small group instruction. This really only targeted one-on-one small group instruction. It would be beneficial to do it with a larger group and a more variety of settings. And here are my references that were utilized throughout the presentation and throughout the study. I appreciate you listening, and if you have any questions, I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much.